Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight is yet another Patreon suggested topic. Tonight we are looking at our 3 favorite lyricists. So we've got a panel discussion here. We're going to just take a look, have a general discussion. You know how it works on the Contrarians. So without any further ado, let's get this one started. Welcome to the Contrarians and to yet another Patreon suggested topic. Tonight we're looking at our favorite lyricists. So we're going to choose our top 3. We're just going to go around the horn. I'm going to start with Rand, and then Rich, and then Matt and Nick. And we're just going to talk about our 3 favorite lyricists. I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. It's nice to see everybody. Haven't seen Nick for a while, even though he does drive-bys on the live stream on Wednesday, but he's also walking his dog a lot, so he can't possibly come on. But Rich, we've seen Rich lately, and Matt, Panorama, these guys have been on a lot of shows lately. But tonight, we are looking at our top 3 lyricists. So let's get going. We'll just go 3, 2, 1, and I'll just keep it moving. And we'll just start out with our number 3. Rand, let's hear your number 3.
Well, thank you for having me, Grant.
You got it.
Number 3, Peter Sinfield.
King Crimson.
Yeah, the guy weaves. Oh yeah, there.
Look at this. Matt has the art.
That song still is unbelievable. I mean, the lyrics, the song of the Sea Goat. I love that album. I absolutely love that album. I love that album too. So he did the King Crimson lyrics for the first 4 albums, and then was gone after Islands. But the imagery that man can produce in his writing is just amazing. I mean, 21st century schizoid men, for starters. Hello, Pete Sinfield. You know, the guy, he's part of the band, but he doesn't really play. He just gives them the lyrics. Amazing song. It's a prediction of the future that nobody wanted. And In the Court of the Crimson King, I think that's his masterpiece. The lyrics are Rusted Chains of Prison Moons and stuff like that. It's just incredible lyric writing. And Lizard, oh my God. And In the Wake of Poseidon. In the Wake of Poseidon was the first King Crimson album I ever heard anyway. You know. But anyways, yeah, I love him. He's really good and is just incredible lyric writer.
All right, cool. Thanks, Rand. That's excellent. Peter Sinfield, a true artist. Well, I couldn't put it any better, Rand. Let's pop it over to Rich. Rich, what is your number 3?
Yeah, my number 3 choice, in some ways, I don't know if some people would count it, but I'm going with John S. Hall from the band King Missile. And it was really probably him between like 87 and 94 when he was with King Missile. And I think the reason some people wouldn't count him is that he pretty much just wrote monologues, and he wrote these really funny, smart monologues, and the band would play music behind them. And the stuff he came up with was brilliant. I don't know if you're familiar with King Missile. Their big hit was Detachable Penis, you know, and the album that song is from, Happy Hour, I think that he really peaked as a lyric writer on that. I think he's extremely funny for most of the songs, and his lyrics were intelligent. You know, it's almost like he had a PhD in philosophy, and his monologues I thought were just fantastic. And then occasionally he did write a lyric. Actually, my favorite song of theirs, it's actually their most depressing, and it's called Happy Hour, and the lyrics are, I've never figured out what he's talking about, but it's so powerful combined with the music, and I'm going to recite them for you. In this happy sing-song hellhole, in this torture house of glee, in this perfect playpen prison, there's so much to do and see. On this euthanasia morning, colorful carnival of pain, let us drink delicious poison. If they won't let us, let's complain. Genetic engineers crucified our sacred hymns while flesh fell off our bodies and we lost our limbs. I mean, to me, that's really powerful. I mean, I don't know what he's talking about, but the emotion of the lyrics and combined with the music behind it, it's one of maybe 5 songs that sends chills up and down my spine. You know, I'm putting him at number 3 because of probably mainly because of the album Happy Hour, which is not only my favorite King Missile album, but probably my favorite album of the 90s. So that's my number 3 choice.
Well, that says something. King Missile. So third time wasn't a charm for King Missile.
No. I just didn't. I thought his humor just was it just, I don't know. He just wasn't funny anymore. It was like a comedian going up there, and you know he knows he's lost it. He doesn't have it anymore, but he's still performing anyway.
Golly, I never thought King Missile would be mentioned today, but hey,
yeah, well,
this is what the beauty of having these panels. You just never know what's going to pop up. Let's throw it over to Matt. Matt, what's your number 3? And welcome. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. Great to be here. My number 3 is Robert Hunter, who wrote lyrics for the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
This is a book of their lyrics with a lot of annotations. And for Robert Hunter's lyrics, I need the annotations. And I'm a little intimidated even talking about him. There's people who know way more both about his lyrics and the Dead than I do. But, you know, he's got this encyclopedic knowledge of, you know, music itself and traditions in music and 40s and 50s pop songs and folk music and history. And he fills his lyrics. There's a lot of allusions, right? So he's referring to a bunch of other things. Like Rand, where you mentioned Peter Sinfield, and it was very strange that I happen to have that album. Those albums.
That was crazy.
I've been I'm researching for another project a lot of his lyrics, and like where where Peter Sinfield in the Court of the Crimson King is allegedly sort of about Frederick II. There's these like, you know, a whole nother layer of meaning around it. I think there's a lot of that in Robert Hunter's lyrics. So I get a lot of just enjoyment kind of trying to read through them and figure out what they're about. In this book, he talks about, scatology, which is sort of, he calls it tracking the spoor of the song. And whether it's about, you know, there's things that you borrow, the things that inspire you, things that you steal, and tracking it back. And he did that as a writer. And I think that's something that you get to do as a listener to the music that have his lyrics in it. Is, you know, you can really kind of go into the black hole of research and trying to figure out what all these things mean. When you to me, a lot of his lyrics, sometimes it's because he's taking a phrase that's old. Other times he's phrasing something that sounds like it's been around forever. So a lot of the lyrics sound like proverbs to me. One of my favorite songs by the Dead is St. Stephen. And I love the lyric, like, talk about your plenty, talk about your ills. One man gathers what another man spills. And, you know, it just, I love the way it sounds. And again, you can kind of keep going into try to figure out other meanings to it. He's got recurring images and metaphors that he uses. So refers to like the 23rd Psalm and Ripple and Alabama Getaway. A lot of references to like games of chance and gambling and cards. And so things like Dire Wolf and Loser. So I'm no expert, but I enjoy learning all the time about his lyrics. And so that's why I've got Robert Hunter as my number 3 choice.
That's a good choice. I just want to ask you, Matt, had St. Stephen's one of those early tracks? Had he been writing for the Dead since the beginning? I don't know.
My understanding is that was one of the, I think one of the first, the first 4 that he sent to Jerry. Like he had written them in like New Mexico or something, and it said before, and then Jerry said, come back, wrote him a letter back and said, come join us. So.
Oh, cool. Well, Matt, Robert Hunter, I love it. That's freaking great choice.
Good choice.
Excellent choice. Nick Esquire, let's throw it over to you. How are you?
Thanks, Grant. The last panel I was on was a panel dealing with favorite non-rock artists. And that's where I'm going to start. If I have to be honest with myself and think about my favorite lyricists, one guy who I mentioned in that episode, I have to consider him in the top three lyricists. Not necessarily known for his rock and roll output, but he has an output of pushing 400 songs. And of course, he's going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So my number 3 will be Willie Nelson. And
Oh, wow.
Wow, what a better album. What a great album cover.
yeah, that's Willie singing his earliest hits. And as you know, he has a lot of hits, many of which were actually written by other people, but Willie's writing itself. And again, with a catalog of pushing 400 songs, a lot of his music sung by other artists has sort of transcended even the country genre. I think it's become ingrained in our pop culture. His lyrics are that of someone who's actually lived the thing, which is what I appreciate. So a couple of examples of things he wrote that people may not know about, starting at the top. You know, he wrote Crazy by one of the biggest songs ever in country music, but that song's transcended everything but Patsy Cline. But he wrote that. He wrote Hello Walls. He wrote Nightlife. Funny how time slips away. Of course, he wrote On the Road Again. And he wrote a lot of songs that are, important to the country genre. One of my favorites by Willie is somewhat of a ballad, melancholic song called Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. And so if you wanted to check out his lyrics or what I think he's powerful of, besides those other songs that have sort of been ingrained in our culture, I would check out Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. And there may be a few others here that I noted down. He also wrote a song that gets played a lot at Christmas time, made famous by Roy Orbison, Pretty Paper. That's Willie.
Oh, I didn't know that. I had no idea that was Willie.
Yeah, that's Willie. And it's about a guy selling paper and pencils outside of a department store based on a real experience of a guy in Fort Worth that he used to see. So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you can dig and dig and dig and say, oh, I didn't know he wrote that. I didn't know he wrote that. But those are some of the songs that sort of transcended the genre. And I just think they're keepers and they'll be around for a long, long time.
Oh, well. All right, cool. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Let's go to Rand. Rand, what's your number 2?
I got another Peter for you. This time
Peter
a guy named Peter Gabriel.
Oh, I thought it was Peter Frampton. Jeez.
I love Peter Gabriel's lyrics. And his voice. He's turned out to be my favorite singer of all time. He's incredible. This stuff he's doing now, I don't know if you've heard it yet, but he's putting out a new song every full moon. And he's got 6 out already. And they're good songs.
Cool.
Yeah. Excellent.
And he's on tour right now, too. He's touring Europe.
He is.
Yeah.
After a long...
I've seen him 3 times. I saw him do The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway with Genesis.
Yeah.
That was my first Genesis concert, and I saw him in 1982. I guess I've only seen him twice. Why did I say 3 times? I don't know. I saw him in 1982, and I think that was the last time I saw him.
Well, what year was So? 86?
So it was 86. Yeah.
86, yeah.
So what would that be? Melt in 82?
No,
the Melt album, that was 83rd one, 1980.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's my favorite, by the way. But I love the guy. I mean, he's just incredible. No, I did see him. I did see him 3 times because I saw him on the Salisbury Hill tour in 1977. Opening bands were Television and Yesterday and Today, and then Peter Gabriel came on, and he was just absolutely phenomenal.
All right, cool, excellent. Peter Gabriel, there you go. That's a good choice.
I love him, man.
I mean, Rand, I understand your love for Peter Gabriel, but he'll be no Phil Collins. I'll give you that. All right, Rich, you're up next.
Okay, well, my number 2 choice is actually very close to Rand's. I'm going to go with Tony Banks from Genesis, especially during what I call their Bearded Phil albums between 1986 and Duke. And, that also reminds me
Phil albums.
Statement that I heard. They said the biggest change in Genesis sound didn't come when Peter Gabriel or Steve Hackett left. It came when Phil Collins shaved his beard. And I love that. But
when they went pop.
yeah. But no, Tony Banks, especially, Trick of the Tail through Duke. I think his, I thought he was very poetic. I really liked the way he said things. Wind and Wuthering, I think he has some great lyrics, like One for the Vine. And Afterglow, I think, is, gorgeous. And also another great lyric in that, beware the fisherman who's casting out his line into a dried up riverbed, but don't try to tell him because he won't believe you. Yeah, that song in particular, I think, is great. And so that's why he's my number 2 choice.
Nice.
Yep.
I know you mentioned Tony Banks. I think that's a great choice. And Rand freaking overrated Peter Gabriel. But let me recite now listen to me. Listen to me. Let me recite some lyrics, for God's sakes. You want to hear what a true master sounds like? Listen to this.
Okay.
Now I know that I'm too young. My love has just begun. Studio. Oh. Why are you laughing? This is brilliant. Yeah. Oh, give me a chance. Give me a sign. You know what that means. Sign. I'll show her anytime. Studio. Oh. All I have to say, I'm just going to leave it there. I don't need any response. I'm just going to leave it there.
You could have done Who Done It.
Oh, I'm glad you did so.
I've just quoted the master, and I'm just going to leave it right there. Let's pop it over to Matt. Thank you, Rich, by the way. That was, Tony, sub-lyricist compared to Phil Collins, but we're going to go over to a Matt and get his, I'm sure he'll pick Mike Rutherford, so go ahead, Matt.
This is our favorite Genesis lyricist show, right? So that's all we can pick from. Okay, my number 2 is going to be Jim Carroll.
Oh,
so from
all the people that died.
Yeah, so he had a little bit, kind of a borderline novelty hit with that one, but he started out sort of as a teenage writer, right? So his diaries from when he was a teenager, the Basketball Diaries, later made into a movie, and has kind of a famous blurb on the back from Jack Kerouac saying that at 13 years old, Jim Carroll writes better prose than 89% of the novelists working today. And legitimate poet. He's wrote books of poetry, and he just kind of had a fairly short music career with the 3 Jim Carroll band albums, but I really love all his lyrics on those 3 records. Just one little other show and tell thing. I got this a while ago. This is a Broad Street from one of his poems, signed. There's kind of a neat printing they put up for that. So it's the late great Jim Carroll. So I'm thankful to have that. I just love the sort of the cadence of his lyrics, the imagery that's in them. A lot of the content are things that I have no firsthand knowledge of, right? So he's talking about New York City and sort of he was sort of part of, he's part of some of the Warhol stuff. He's friends with, he knows Patti Smith. He's kind of connected to all this New York musical literati and everything. And it's just kind of, I enjoy sort of his lyrics better than even like Lou Reed or Patti Smith, who are, and somewhat sort of similar in that they're, I guess, legitimate poets doing a rock and roll thing. But I prefer his. A few of my favorite ones. There's a song called Them. This is my favorite album, lyrically and musically, by Jim Carroll. This is Dry Dreams.
Oh, I haven't seen that record in years.
Yeah,
I remember seeing it back in the day.
It's really good. Unfortunately, it's not on Spotify or anything. I don't think. I think just Catholic Boy is on there. But one of the lyrics in there in the song "Them," "Death is the only way to get by. The neck of Anubis strangled by wire." I just love the phrasing of that. And then when he sings it the second time, "Death is the only way." The first time is "Death is the only way to get high." The second time is "Death is the only way to survive." Just kind of making a nice little twist on the second time the lyric comes around. He wrote the lyrics to Blue Oyster Cult's Perfect Water, which has got some really good lines in it. Where two blocks of ice melt until my hands like dice, and I rolled a 7 on the floor of the sea. That's just really cool imagery with all of his lyrics. So my second choice is Jim Carroll.
Holy crap. You guys have got great choices, except for those Genesis ones. But other than that, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Nick Esquire, let's see. Are you going to go with Mike Rutherford?
No, I'm going to leave all of the Genesis and their progeny to you guys. I'm going to go. Okay, I'm going to go and stick back to the rock and roll genre now. And in thinking about this and thinking about somebody like a Willie whose songs may last 100, 200, 300 years, one name came up. And of course, he's been known as the father of rock and roll, architect of rock and roll. And if you're going to get one album, there's about 20, 25 hits you're going to have on there. And he's influenced everybody from start to finish. Chuck Berry.
Oh, yeah.
I can't argue with that at all.
I can't say that he's in my top 3. I mean,
right.
The Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, the Who, Dylan, AC/DC, on and on and on. The Beach Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And, his music, his lyrics, he was a decent guitar player. He knew how to write a song. He had an average voice, but it's his lyrics that sort of always seem to be the thing that propel these songs into the ether, into another stratosphere. And we all know about 20 or 25 songs, maybe 5 to 10 of which will be here long after we're gone.
You look at the Beatles, they thought the world. Beatles thought, you're all right. If you think about the Beatles, they thought the world of Chuck Berry. So,
oh, yeah.
And Buddy Holly, all those guys.
In a lot of his music, there's always like a really cool sense of humor that he had with these songs. So, and his placement of words was also almost perfect. I read it almost like poetry or like a haiku. It's like the words were, packed a lot of punch for what he said. That imagery of trying to describe teenage energy or angst or whatever from the 50s onward is just incredible. I think we forget a lot about Chuck because you didn't really hear much about him. You heard some of the downsides of Chuck Berry, and he wasn't really a prolific artist after, let's say, he had one novelty hit in the 70s, My Ding-a-ling. But
I was going to just say that
he didn't do much. But it's that body
huge.
of work from the mid 50s. A good 10 to 15 years.
But his photography work is worldwide.
Well, yeah, and video. But I just think that he's. All roads lead back to Chuck for all when you're talking about the pure essence of rock and roll and all these bands, even through today.
Yeah,
it all goes back to him. Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, Roll Over Beethoven, School Days, rock and roll music, Reelin' and Rockin', Sweet Little 16, Johnny Be Good, Carroll, Memphis, Little Queenie, Back in the USSA, Nadine, No Particular Place to Go. I think the only hits not on here besides My Ding-a-ling would be You Never Can Tell, and plus he wrote a couple Christmas hits like Run Rudolph Run. But on and on and on with this guy.
All right, thanks, Nick. That was good. Chuck Berry. You guys have all bunch of great choices. This is great. Rand, what's your number 1?
Who do you think I'm gonna? Well, I'll tell you what.
Jon Anderson.
Jon Anderson.
Jon Anderson, amazing lyricist. Oh, by the way, since it's my theater right now, I'd like to say happy birthday to Brian Wilson. He turned 81 years old today.
Yeah. I'm going to run this lyric by you, and Rand, I want to know your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
A unicorn headed the mystical way, surrounded by...
Are you talking about Circus of Heaven?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Surrounded by what seemed 1,000 golden angels at play. Behind were centaurs, elves, bright fairies, all in colors of jade on the very final day. All right. What does that lyric mean to you?
He took too much acid that day.
I think Nick's frozen again. All right.
No, you know what? To be serious,
hey, man, I just throwing it out there. You mentioned Jon Anderson, and I
love everything that guy writes. He can do no wrong. it means what it means to me in the moment when I hear it.
Okay.
It'll always be different.
Well, what does
It's
Circus
like-
of Heaven,
it's
what
like-
is that song about? Briefly.
Well, I just think it's about a proposed future that people would like to have,
Mhm.
or maybe he wanted to have in 1978 that hasn't happened yet, but still is possible.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Rand's number one, Jon Anderson, kids. There
Of
you
yes.
go. Of yes, not the other Jon Anderson, but the yes Jon Anderson.
Right. You got to be careful when you write Jon Anderson. You get that country guy.
All right, Rand, thanks so much for your Jon Anderson. God knows it would all come back to yes.
You're welcome.
But we're going to go
Always
with
come-
it all comes back to yes. All right, let's go over to Matt and see what his number one is. Is your number one Mike Rutherford?
Just outside the top three for me, Mike Rutherford. So
Just
unfortunately,
right outside.
My number one is Leonard Cohen.
Oh,
I had a feeling he would show up.
I didn't
and-
have a feeling he would show up, but I think that's a great
Yeah. So,
pick.
when a lot of people, when you kind of see like great Leonard Cohen lyric quotes, right, or you just see it in just in more contemporary circumstances, a lot of the lyrics that are mentioned would be things that he did, I would say, in the later stages of his career, starting in the 80s. And like Hallelujah, of course, and Anthem, Tower of Song, Everybody Knows, I'm Your Man. And those lyrics are great, but his early career, his first four records to me are lyrically completely untouchable. I don't think anyone's got anything that comes close to that. It's songs like Bird on a Wire, Famous Blue Raincoat, Dress Rehearsal Rag,
Mhm.
absolute classics ones. For me, his absolute best album, best lyrics, this is my favorite album period, my favorite lyrics period, would be his first album, Songs of Leonard Cohen.
Yeah, I've got that.
And it's just every single song on there. I never get tired of it. I keep getting more out of his lyrics. One of the things that I like is sort of the way he blends the sacred and the profane in what he's writing about. He's talking about relationships and love and lust, and also, he's studied in Judaism and Christianity, and he's making references to that. He in the later part of his life, he lives as a Buddhist monastery for many years, right? So this sort of spiritual searching, it comes across in his lyrics, again, in a way that sort of blends the sacred and the profane, but also has a sense of humor. So in like Chelsea Hotel No. 2, he says, "You told me again you preferred handsome men, but for me you would make an exception," right? Like, so he'll put in these kind of funny things. And when he performs the songs, right, he's got this really wonderful sense of humor about him. Really a master of language. He famously works his songs like a craftsman, right? Like he feels some songs are never finished, and he'll do tons and tons of verses and alternates and make changes to just try to get the perfect lyric. And more than anyone else, I think he got there sometimes. So Leonard Cohen, my number one lyricist.
Wow. I didn't even think about that, but God, you were so on track, Matt. Yeah. That first album, you know what I find amazing is that at a young age, your parents got that from the library, and it made such an impression on you back then.
Yeah, no, it was really lucky. My mom was a librarian, and the library where she worked in a public library, and there was a couple of younger hip people who worked at the library that did the music collection there. And that was a gateway for a lot of the records that I originally got turned on to at a impressionable age. So I have to give a shout out to the Lucius Beebe Memorial Library in Wakefield, Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah, there they go. Oh, cool. I love that. Well, I just wanted to mention a couple lyrics before we keep going. This is some of the best lyrics written on the planet. And though I know you guys might not appreciate it, but I'm going to read this and I'm going to see if you know what it is. The things are complicating. Listen to that. My love is in her hands. And there's no more waiting. She understands.
She understands. Yeah.
The plaster's getting harder. And my love is perfection. A token of my love for her collection. Her collection.
Her collection. Yeah.
What needs to be said?
What needs to be said with those lyrics?
It's the sacred and the profane all over again.
You know, when
I'm just going to leave it there, gentlemen.
I first heard,
nodding off, but
Who is that?
Understands, huh?
yes,
Who is that? I don't know.
That's Jon Anderson.
Jon Anderson on an off day. No, you know, when I first heard that song in 1977, and I was 10, and I didn't know what he was talking about, you know.
Well, when you're a kid and you hear that, you don't know what you're talking about. But when you get older, then you go,
oh,
well, then
okay.
I read that article about the plaster casters of Chicago, and I'm going, oh, well, that all makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, that whole story about Jimi Hendrix.
Doing turn of the century?
That whole story about Jimi Hendrix when they put the mold on him, and they had to do it again because well, I'm not going to go into it.
Okay,
everybody knows the story, but then you know what Gene's talk. It's Gene Simmons, Rand.
Oh, it's Gene Simmons. Yeah, I don't know nothing about Kiss.
Wow. Hey, you should get turned on to some of Gene's work.
Stupid.
I know too much about them.
See, everybody else is going, I know what that is. All right,
well, we're an American band. That's what it sounds like. Sweet, sweet Connie doing her act.
Yeah.
This is another good line. And my love is in the plaster. And yes, she's the collector. She wants me all the time to inject
her.
Now that might be the classic lyric of the whole song.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it there. All right, Rich, what you got? What's your number one?
Okay, well, my number one, compared to the other people that I mentioned, who were like brilliant during part of their careers, my number one choice is someone who I thought was brilliant throughout his entire career, and that's Ray Davies of the Kinks.
Oh yeah.
I think that you know, some of his songs were absolutely hilarious, like Well Respected Man. Like I think my favorite line from that is, and he's better than the rest, and his own sweat smells the best. I mean, you know, that's you know, and also Dedicated Follower of Fashion. First time I heard that song, I just laughed so hard. I thought it was the funniest thing. And the way he sings those lyrics, or it's just brilliant. It's just like so over the top. And I think his brother Dave said that Ray Davies had a way of like insulting someone and then smiling at the same time, you know. And so yeah, he could be really, really funny, and then he could be really, really deep and depressing at times. And some I kind of like depressing lyrics sometimes, like the song Oklahoma USA, classic line, all life we work, but work is a bore. If life's for living, what's living for? I mean, or the, you know, oh gee, you know. But yeah, so he could be really funny, but you could tell he was really intelligent. And I really, the lyricists that I've mentioned, you know, I really like intelligence when it comes to writing. And I liked it when Ray Davies would occasionally show his heart. Like he has another favorite lyric of mine is from they did an album called Think Visual, and there's a song called How Are You? And the line is, you always said that you would try to change, turn a new leaf and start all over again. But I know you're making all the same mistakes. You're a lot like me. That's why I'm still your friend. And I just think that's very, you know, I really like that. That hits home with me. So yeah, I just think he was just very versatile. You know, like I said, could be very funny, could be very serious, heartfelt, and yeah, and just for his consistency, for, you know, throughout his entire career, he was a brilliant wordsmith. You know, so that's why he's my number one choice.
All right, Well, I guess we're down to Nick. Somehow we made it around our Nick's number one. Nick's had a lot of really great choices. Willie Nelson.
Oh, good.
Geez.
Yeah, my number one. I don't know. I looked at all three that I chose today as almost like interchangeable. So my one could be 3 and 3 1. I actually wanted to do Chuck Berry before this last one, but this artist I've mentioned before. I'm always trumpeting his abilities, and I found him very underappreciated. Great guitar player, well known for his fiery performances. But one of the things I think that gets lost with him is that his lyrics were really good. And I see in him almost like a direct line from the real serious lyric writers of the blues age, whether it's Muddy Waters or Robert Johnson or Howlin' Wolf and those guys. But I see that connection. I also see the connection with Chuck Berry too. So my number one for today is going to be Rory Gallagher.
Holy mackerel.
And
nice.
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see that coming either.
Well, and I'll tell you what, the more I get into his music, because that's the thing, I'm still a student of his music. He has so much output, so many recordings. But as I get into his music more and more, and you compare him with, let's say, other artists of his time period in the 70s or 80s, his lyrics are on another level. Again, with that blues ethic of it really cutting it close to the bone and being very direct. Along with the music itself. And he was a guy who just didn't, Moon and June. And let's be honest, a lot of my favorite rock artists, if I were to sit back and actually read the lyrics, which I don't, I'm not a big lyric guy, but if I were to read the lyrics,
I'm not either. So
they're kind of, a lot of it is moronic and it's sort of paint by numbers. And he was not that. Like, he was a guy who was influenced by, let's say, he liked crime novels. And it just wasn't sort of the typical Moon and June kind of rhyming crap that we hear that's interchangeable. So he was sort of out there. Matter of fact, several years ago, someone put together, I think it's a novella based on his songs, and he would have been real proud of this. But it's entitled Kickback City, but a lot of it has to do with some of the lyrical imagery in his songs. If I were to, there was a few songs I dialed up. Maybe I will spit out some lyrics. But if you're going to listen to Rory, I thought of 4 songs, 2 of which are very popular, like on Spotify. But one of them is Bad Penny, which has always been my personal favorite of mine. I didn't realize how popular that song was, I guess, internationally. The other is A Million Miles Away. The lyrics of that song are really good and caught me off guard once. I was driving around that song in the background, and my now 11-year-old was maybe 6 at the time. She knew the lyrics. There's something to be said with that when kids can kind of like dial that in. Another one is a song called I Walk on Hot Coals. The sort of the chorus of that is, he says, well, I walk on hot coals, I sleep on a bed of nails, walk on thin ice, I skate on razor blades, got my little girl beside me no matter what else fails. That imagery to me is almost like directly from something like from Howlin' Wolf or Muddy Waters or something. So that's the kind of stuff I like. And then here's a fourth song. It's an album track from this album. It's called this is the Defender album, released in '87. The song is called Road to Hell. And I heard the song and heard it again. I'm like, boy, if this song isn't sort of the successor to the Robert Johnson Hellhound on My Trail. If you like that kind of imagery, really dark. Matter of fact, I was going to pull that one up, but I just found it incredibly real and poignant. And it's about a guy who sort of acknowledges and accepts his fate. And he's like, okay, instead of me running from the devil, he's embracing what's going to happen to him, and he gets it and understands it. And I haven't, like, the lyrics to me, I just haven't heard anything like this, but I'll read a couple of them out in case anyone's interested. Soft soaked on the road to hell. So many times I've tripped and fell. No chances left. The sky's falling down on me. One step from the demon's fire. Can't stop the train and the flames get higher. Too late to save me. The walls are coming down on me. I'm like, whoa, this is a guy. It's everything's collapsing in, and it's unbelievable. And that with the driving riff, and the drums are sort of almost like reminiscent of Sunshine of Your Love with that jungle beat. It's just really incredible. And it goes on and on and on. It gets even worse and deeper. They try to keep me on a long, thin chain, thanks, but no thanks, just the same. You saw it coming. The devil's got the jump on me. And on about the lost soul on the road to hell. I mean, if that doesn't get it from the earliest of times of blues imagery through rock, through Rory, I don't know what else does, but he's good. And I'm hoping I could add more songs to the list as time goes by, but I really am struck by his lyrics and imagery, and it goes with the full package. That was a good artist.
Holy mackerel.
One of the things
Rory Gallagher. I love that. Yeah.
I like how, so he's got kind of that blues tradition style of lyrics, and I agree, like it's just phenomenal and kind of continue to evolve it. But then he'll have songs that are just, not typical.
Oh yeah.
So Philby, which is about the spy double agent Kim Philby's. It's a great lyric, it's a great song, and it's just like, nothing that you would have expected. And I have to share because this is just a few days after Father's Day. My kids made me a Rory Gallagher Magic the Gathering card for my for Father's Day. So
wow, that's
wait
awesome.
A minute, they made you a card?
Yeah.
A Rory Gallagher? It looks like a Pokemon card.
Yeah.
And Matt hits it on that with Philby. There's history there. It's not typical lyrics. It's an incredible song. There's intrigue there. That's on the same album as Top Priority. The same album as Bad Penny.
Yeah.
It's just incredible lyrics.
Great show.
He's like thinking man's blues band or thinking man's artist. So if you want music simple and direct, but the lyrics on another level.
Well, let me ask you, Nick, I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about Rory. I know he's great. I know he's a great player, blah, blah, blah. But if I was going to start into Rory, where would I start?
All right. Besides the live albums, if you're going to do studio, it's sort of where my head's at now. But so take it with a grain of salt. I'm really into the Rory period of around 78, 79, where he was a three-piece and a lot harder, heavier, influenced by, I'd say punk, not in the output, but just the directness. His drummer at the time was Ted McKenna from Alex Harvey and Michael Schenker and Greg Lake et al. I just found them to be really hard driving, and he eliminated in this time period the keyboards, although there's a lot to be said for when he had his keyboards. And so the two albums I would recommend would be Top Priority and the one before it, because I've talked about it on the show. What's the name of it? It's a 78 release. Not Against the Grain. Hang on one second. I'll figure it out. But it's those two releases. Matter of fact, the lyrics in that 78 release are just fantastic too. By the way, Jon Anderson did write Swingin', in case anyone's keeping score.
Okay, thank you. So you were right.
I'll have it in a second. I might think slow, but it's those two albums, 78, 79. That's where I'd start. And then the live ones, for example, this is the classic, the Irish Tour 74. Can't Go Wrong with This. And Stage Struck is another live one. They have another live one coming out like in a couple weeks. So you can never go wrong with his live material. But I would start there for his studio stuff. A lot of it, like Matt says, some of it is blues oriented. A lot of it is rock oriented too. So matter of fact, the record I'm thinking of, I suggested for somebody when he did our Christmas thing and what we were Secret Santa nonsense. So it was a Rory Gallagher that I sort of
Photo Finish, maybe.
Thank you, Photo Finish. Thank you. Sorry, Photo Finish. Great album. I'd start there, Grant. Photo Finish, Top Priority. Those two.
All right, cool. Thank you.
What say you, Matt? What do you recommend?
Yeah, Matt.
I would do the same thing. Those are like kind of like my entryway ones too, because I'm, I think they're the more rockin' side. So for that was recommended to me, and that was a good way to get in because I'm late to them too, overall, and still exploring. And it was Top Priority for sure. Like that record just slayed me. So I'd go for it. And the early stuff's great. The Taste stuff's great. I mean, everything is
Taste
is great.
I love Taste, or as they say, the Irish announcers say Test.
I'm not sure, but I might have a Taste CD that I bought. I'm gonna have to go through the archives because you know how it is.
If you can find this one, this got everything on it.
What's that? A DVD? What is that? Box set?
It's a CD, and there may be a DVD on here too. I know it's four discs. It's got everything on here. They also did it came out not too long ago too, their performance at Isle of Wight, the famous Isle of Wight festival.
Cool. This is what's so great about this channel, kids. We can just go and talk music. I know you guys are good sports because I was just throwing out lyrics just for the hell of it, just to be snarky, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Plaster Caster kids.
Yeah.
What would a show be without Plaster Caster? I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, I'll defend Jon Anderson all day, any day.
Oh, I know.
But I have other.
Let me ask you this, Rand. I'm not
lyrics
sure if I know the
I like.
answer. Did
Okay.
Jon Anderson write all those lyrics, or did Chris Squire write? He wrote too, right? Or no?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know too much about the lyrics. I think Jon wrote most of the lyrics. If I was to guess, I would say Jon Anderson wrote 90% of the lyrics when Jon Anderson was in the band.
Okay.
Well, Chris Squire wrote the lyrics for Onward and
Parallel.
Yes.
Yeah, those
Yep.
were his songs. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are both great. I really like both.
Oh,
those.
yeah.
I love both of them.
I love
yeah.
Parallel.
Yeah.
Mhm. And Onward's beautiful. Just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Onwards. I think that's probably my favorite song of Tormato.
Proggers that get married usually use Onward as their after dance song.
And I really liked the version that they did on Keys to Ascension. I think Steve Howe played like classical guitar. He did a classical guitar intro.
Mhm.
And it's just beautiful. I mean, it's about as good as the original, if not maybe even a little bit better.
A lot of people don't understand about Onward. They think those dun, 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 dun notes are the Chris Squire on the bass. It's Rick Wakeman on the keyboard. The bass notes are just really long, low notes that don't do anything. They're whole notes. They just go. Bah. They're very subtle, but that constant meter of the song, that's all being provided by Rick Wakeman on a mini Moog, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's a serial number on that mini Moog.
0001.
Good. All right. That's probably right. I believe everything Rand tells me. So
He was one of the
that's right.
first to get one, I'll tell you that.
I know. You're probably right.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I think we wrapped this up. We had a good time just talking lyrics, and I think everybody's choices are very valid. I really can't. This was just a fun conversation, even though I interjected with a lot of crap.
Well,
But-
can we slam out a few names and not talk about them much? Just say the names.
Yeah, if you guys have any honorable mentions, make it clear.
Yeah, I do. Can I go first?
Well,
I
we'll
wanted
go
to
with
go
you,
first.
Rich, since I slammed you before, so I'll let you
okay.
go first this time.
Honorable mentions for me, Roger Waters. His lyrics with Pink Floyd were, brilliant. I mean, again, intelligent. He could be, and he did have a sense of humor. And I felt like that was one thing that Pink Floyd lost after he left was, he was a great lyricist, I think people kind of forget about The Wall that some of it's actually funny. I think they forget that some of that album is actually hilarious. And another lyric writer I want to bring up is Sandy Pearlman, Oyster Cult.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Yeah. And a lot of his lyrics were from this thing he wrote about this guy Imaginos. And so yeah, he was very, very literary. He was well-read and very scientific. Yeah, he was great.
Anybody else have any honorable mentions so we can wrap this up?
We can cut it.
Huh?
We don't need
Matt, you have any?
I guess I would say Ray Davis, Pete Townsend, Ian Anderson, Daniel Gildenlow from Pain of Salvation.
Mhm.
But I think of all of those more as songwriters, right? Sort of the whole package, and the lyrics are so intertwined with the music, and I kind of focus on the folks who are more just about the lyrics.
Right. What about
I'll do
you,
two.
Nick? Go
I'll do
ahead.
two. We just lost this guy, Peter Brown, lyricist
Oh,
for Cream.
I love that.
That's a
podcast.
good one. That's a good one.
If 4 songs, Sunshine in Your Love, White Room, Tales of Brave Ulysses, and from the Jack Bruce solo career, the theme from Imaginary Western. The other one, I probably have a really good had a more emotional connection to his lyrics than maybe anyone I mentioned today, but I would say Ian Hunter from Mott in his solo career. And he's just really, he's written songs really that connected me. I Wish I Was Your Mother and Girl from the Office and Irene Wild, and just some really, really good stuff that that has resonated with me over the years. So I think he's great.
Super. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap this one up. I want to thank Matt, Rand, Rich, and Nick for coming on tonight and talking about our favorite lyricists. Kept it loose. Yeah, I made some jokes, but it's fun.
I was out of my mind.
And Rand, we've learned, is out of his mind. So what can I say about that? What's that?
Under doctor's orders.
Yeah, well, makes an interesting show. All right, gentlemen, thank you, and we'll see you on the next one. Please like, subscribe. If you like these panels and want to join this, we have a Patreon. You can join that. If you don't want to join our Patreon and you don't want to be on any panels, we do have a Ko-fi account that you can make a donation. We'd love donations. What can I say? We also have a TeePublic account if you want. Jesus. We also have a TeePublic account if you want to buy some merchandise. I will mention, I don't know when this is coming, but every Wednesday we're starting up a live chat. Tomorrow we're going to do Frank Zappa. Of course, this won't be aired by that time, but every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, Martin's coming on, and I don't know who else. It'll be me and Martin just opening up the chat and just interacting with all the Patreons or anybody in the chat. Anybody can come on and we can talk, ask us questions. But tomorrow we're doing the Frank Zappa. I don't know what's coming up. We'll have a different topic every week. So if you find that interesting, please check it out. I guess that's it. All right, gentlemen. See ya.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you on the
Thanks,
next one.
guys.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.